Greetings and welcome to the 45th episode of Morrowind Modding Showcases. As always, I'm your host Dark Elf Guy, and this week we have a selection of 13 randomly themed mods for you all. But before we get into all that, I did just want to sort of point out that Morrowind Modding Showcases is now on Patreon, so if you'd like to help out the channel a bit, and these videos do take a really long time to make, a $1 a month donation goes a really long way to helping us produce more videos. But anyway, we do have a great selection of mods for you all this time around, and as always, you can find download links for each mod shown down in the description below. So why don't we just go ahead and get started with our popular mod of the week, which this week is Daedric Ruins But Mapped by Logan. Alright, by this point you guys are probably pretty familiar with Logan's work. We've covered a number of his mods on the show before, and Daedric Ruins But Mapped is naturally another texture and model replacer for those dark Daedric ruins that you see scattered all over Vvardenfell. And just like every other mod in Logan's But Map series, this is a very high resolution and high quality texture replacer that really adds an extra level of detail to one of the more iconic dungeon types in Morrowind. I mean, Daedric ruins are a fairly major feature of the Vvardenfell landscape, and this mod goes a long way to update them to better match more modern graphics. And you know, Daedric ruins are probably one of my favourite aspects of Morrowind dungeons, that and Dwemer ruins. I mean, they look so alien as a part of the landscape, and that's really Morrowind's whole appeal, that alien feeling. So mods like this that improve upon that alien feeling, and this texture replacer is pretty lore friendly, I have to say. The textures are just very much of a similar colour scheme as what you'll find in vanilla Morrowind, and the point is, I'm just sort of rambling here, but I just kind of love mods like this that just improve on Morrowind's already amazing art design. And anyway, getting a bit off track there, we just saw the exterior textures for Daedric Ruins with this replacer, and moving on to the interior side of things, again it has to be pointed out that these textures are very similar to what's in the original version of Morrowind. They've just been updated with a sort of higher resolution, and they do look a bit more, I don't know what term I would use exactly, crisp I suppose. They definitely feel more detailed, and the last thing I want to show off here is one of these Daedric shrine rooms where you can get a pretty good idea of what these textures look like, and really I just think it sort of adds to the Daedric Ruins atmosphere. For our house mod of the week this week, we have Cedonine House by Mr. AA. And this mod adds a small sort of Nordic-style cottage to the waterfront of Cedonine, right by the lighthouse, and it's not a grand home by any stretch of the imagination. Instead, it's a cozy little cottage with a lot of atmospheric detailing, like a little lookout platform in back with some dining space and a hammock to laze about on and enjoy the Bitter Coast sunsets. And there's even a little bit of a garden around the property with a bunch of little immersion details, like a wood-cutting axe and some extra storage off to the side that you can use. And really, it's just a lovely little home that's been built into the landscape right outside of Cedonine. And inside the house, you can see that it's really just fairly small. It has a lot of cozy atmosphere with a small fireplace, a study area with a desk and bookshelves, and some extra storage. But really, it's just basically 2 rooms. And on the second floor, you can find a tiny little attic space here. You'll find a bedroom that you can use and some extra storage. And again, this is just a small sort of cozy home that's perfect for starting characters who are just starting out playing the game. This week's gameplay mod of the week is Live Free by Applepaz, and Live Free is a sort of slave overhaul for Morrowind that gives slaves a bit more functionality than simply freeing them. Now, if you own the key to a slave's braces, you can choose to claim the slave as your own, and this also includes the ability to alter their starting stats. You can choose what their major attribute is and what combat skills they favor, and this will vary from slave to slave on what's available, but generally speaking, you can usually find combat skills like marksman, spears, long blades, and short blades, are the main combat skills that most slaves will have to choose from. And you do need to be a bit careful though. If you steal someone else's slaves, they might get a tad bit angry for some reason. I really don't know what the problem is. I clearly have the key. Now these slaves have most of Grumpy's companion features, so they act as full-scale companions for you to use with a wide array of commands, such as having them cast a healing spell or having them fast travel to the city to meet you later. And of course they also have companion share, so you can equip them with items if you so desire. Naturally, this also includes slaves that you might find in smuggler caves, finally giving them a bit of a purpose outside of being helpless victims to free, though you can still choose to free them. It's just now, why would you do that when you can claim them as your own? And since these are based off of Grumpy's companion scripts, you can expect your slaves to be able to levitate when you do, or water walk, making traveling around with your slaves a lot easier. And finally, with this mod, you can start up your own slave army, arm them with a ton of weapons, and start a revolt against the Dunmer slave class, attacking plantations and killing their masters, becoming the Django Unchained of Khajiits and Argonians and the lands of Resdayn. Killing slave owners is, after all, a good bit of fun, and these guys are basically doomed anyway. You've got the Red Year just around the corner after the events of Oblivion, so most of these guys are just going to get killed by a giant army of Argonians anyway, so you may as well get in on the fun as well. Next up we have our Dungeon Mod of the Week, and this week we have Arkenthand 2.0 by Ragox. And as the name of this mod would imply, it's basically an update to the famed Dwemer Ruin Arkenthand, one of the first dungeons that many players encounter, and what this mod does is it changes and improves the layout somewhat, and adds in some new stuff as well for you to find. You'll notice the differences pretty much right off the bat. Instead of the sort of confusing maze of corridors that make up Arkenthand 1.0, in the 2.0 version you now have a bit more of a logical path through the ruin, meaning you'll miss less content in the long run. And a number of new details have been added in as well, such as more clutter and the like, and also I suspect a few new enemies for you to face. And you also find that tricky puzzle box has been moved into a more obvious location where it won't be so easily missed. I mean, it's right there on the table. And the upper balcony of Arkenthand has also been fenced off. You can now gain access from the lower levels only instead of climbing up rocks like in the original version, making the progression to the balcony a little bit more obvious for first timers. Arkenthand 2.0 also includes a handful of new models to help splice things up a bit in terms of detailing the interior, and some of the chambers have actually been merged, making for larger rooms instead of a confusing setup of smaller split up rooms to get lost in, like you found in Arkenthand 1.0. And all in all, this is a nice overhaul of Arkenthand that gives it a better flow and more detail into the interior, and it's worth checking out if you plan on traversing this Dwemer Ruin again. For our items mod of the week this week, we have Of Ashen Blight Armor Preview by Melkor Dark, and this mod adds a new vendor to Outrun, who has a wide array of new Dunmeri style armors for sale that you can buy for a modest price, and these come in light, medium, and heavy armor builds, so pretty much everyone is covered with these new armors. And here you can see one of the new armor sets, a sort of blue-like bug armor, which includes a helmet and shield, and I believe this armor is actually based off of those little bug shell balls that you can occasionally find in Ashlander villages, which is, you know, a kind of immersive element. This armor is based off of something that you can already see in Dunmer culture. And there's also some new bone mold armor, and a rather cool feature of this mod is the ability to have traditional Dunmer weapons displayed on your back, like dual chitin swords, as you can see here, or chitin swords and a chitin spear, as you can also see here. And there's just also a ton of different styled helmets in this mod, some with some pretty cool looks to them, I have to say. Like this one, and here's some more of the new armor added in by this mod, which includes some Dunmer styled iron armor, as well as another amazing looking hat, I have to say. I love some of these helmets. And there's also a bug shield attachment that goes on your back, as you can see here. And just like with those chitin weapons we saw, there's a fair variety of different attachments for these bug shields, including a bug shield with a muck shovel, which is an interesting combination to say the least. And here's one last armor set I want to show you guys. This is a green bug shell armor set, and basically all these armor sets and items are part of Melkor's big Of Ashen Blight overhaul, which is a sort of a big immersive overhaul for the Ashlands, adding a lot of cultural Dunmeri items to the game, and hopefully that'll get released eventually. This week's quest mod of the week is Rift, a unique town mod by Matthew the Bagel. And this isn't exactly purely a quest mod, it's a town mod with quite a few quests to check out. And really has to be said that there's just been an absolutely absurdly high number of town mods being released of late. I don't really know why, maybe it's something to do with the winter weather that makes people want to make town mods. But anyway, Rift is a small shack town out in the Azores coast region, and it's got a lot of charm, I have to say. Definitely an element of verticality in the design here. There's a lot of shacks stacked up on one another, and it's overall a really cool setting. And there's also a lot of unique dialogue with the residents of this fair village, as you might expect from a quest mod. And there's even a companion you can get to tag along with you on your journeys, this Argonian fellow here. And he has quite a bit of unique dialogue, with a background story about his origins, And just like most companions based off of Grumpy's companion scripts, he has a number of companion features like combat options, traveling together, and various spells that he can cast, including a healing spell, which is quite handy. And of course, he also comes with companion share for equipment sharing, and he's just sort of a nice companion to have on your adventures in this small town and in the Azores Coast region. And getting on to the actual quests in this quest mod, the residents of Rift have a fair number of problems that they need help with, from combat-oriented tasks, like hunting down and killing off bandit raiding parties, to playing Lost and Found with misplaced books and other items. There's quite a bit to do in this sleepy village, and everyone seems to have a task on hand for you to do. Now, I'm not sure, but I believe the actual number of quests for the town of Rift is somewhere in the realm of about 10 or more quests in total, so there's a fair amount to keep you occupied. And of course, aside from quests, there's also a wide range of shops and services in Rift, such as weapons and an armor shop with a fair bit of variety. And there's also a magic shop where you can purchase potions, ingredients, and even spells, and the option of spellmaking is also available. The town really is quite well serviced with a lot of goods and different services that you can get. And there's also a small player home that you can purchase, just a shack in town with a bed and some small storage and display areas. And lastly, there's also some new dungeons added by this mod, such as a tomb on the edge of town with a number of undead creatures inhabiting it, and some curious notes left around. And this tomb is a modest-sized dungeon, about equal in size to many of the vanilla tombs scattered around in Morrowind, and of course, there's a quest associated with it, and really there's a lot more to Rift that I haven't shown here, but I'll leave that for you guys to discover on your own, because it is a fun mod with a lot to do, and definitely one I recommend checking out if you like doing a lot of miscellaneous quests. Next up, we have our Landmass Mod of the week, and this week we have Usindra Beach by the Pixie. And essentially what this mod does is it adds a small new landmass not too far south of Ebonheart, and this landmass is basically home to a small beach resort with a small tavern and outdoor area for swimmers, and it's really not a large landmass by any stretch of the imagination. You can even see Ebonheart in the distance, along with Tel Magus from our last episode of Morrowind Modding Showcases. And essentially what it boils down to is a small amount of green space with a few trees, rocks, and mushrooms that are surrounded by these beaches, and that's all the landmass is really. And besides the beach resort, the island is also home to one or two other structures, but for the most part it's an island of just, beaches with nice white sand and warm waters for taking a dip in, assuming you don't mind the bite of overly aggressive slaughterfish, since this is Morrowind. If you take a single step into water, it's going to result in just slaughterfish nipping at your heels. And as you might expect with a beach resort, there's an awful lot of people in swimwear here, along with a few quests for you to do. And it has to be said that this is probably as close as we're going to get to a fan service mod on this channel. I tend to avoid skimpy clothing mods, but I suppose in this case it isn't too bad in that department. These are just swimsuits. But in any event, there's a few services here on the island as well, namely an open bar where you can order plenty of drinks. And going back to the quest aspect here, you'll actually be able to help out the resort manager solve a number of problems with Usindra Beach, starting with an apparent slaughterfish epidemic. As you might expect, this involves going out and hunting down slaughterfish so people can once again enjoy the water without threat of being eaten. Anyway, this starts you off on a main quest of sorts for the island, where you'll be doing a number of small tasks at first, but this will eventually lead you to greater things, including dungeon delving and bringing new services to the island, like transport from the Mages Guild. And as you play through the main quest, the island resort will actually expand and grow, with new buildings, walls, docks, and other minor additions and details added throughout. And in a way, Usindra Beach is kind of like a town expansion mod that you help to grow over time. The decisions you make with the main quests, kind of actually do matter. And with this expansion comes new services such as a mage who can heal you for a small sum of gold, and there's even a hairstylist, which basically opens up a charge-in menu for you to choose a new hairstyle if you want, though this could cause issues if you try doing this too many times, and might result in a game crash. And of course, there's also some more bars that get added. After all, what's a beach resort without a good lot of booze? As you can see here, you can never have too many bars on a resort island. And eventually, you even have the option to become a partner in the resort, getting weekly profits from the resort in income, sort of like a Thrisk in the Blood Moon expansion. And finally, this mod does add a ton of new swimwear you can buy for both males and females with a new merchant that you can see here. For our NPC Mod of the Week this week, we have Primal by Arsonside. And this is a sort of different kind of mod really, in that it basically changes the spawning dynamics for Morrowind's hostile creatures. Now, creatures like Quamaforges, for example, will spawn around lairs or hives that appear dynamically in the environment. This means instead of encountering a bunch of lone wolf Quamaforges, you might find several all in the same area. You can destroy these lairs in order to stop more creatures from spawning in, but if you attack the lair, more Quamaforges, for example, might come out to defend their home, and these lairs can also be found for a wide range of creature types, such as these scribs here, which have a hive that they spawn out of. And of course, it's also lairs for rats as well, or more accurately, rat nests. And it's not uncommon to find several of these nests near each other, spawning more and more rats the longer that they're active. Kind of like in real life, I suppose. And lairs also spawn larger creatures, like the Elliot here. And you can typically find these lairs in a large range of environments, from the West Gash to the Ascadian Isles region and up to the Sheogord coast region even. And yes, before you ask, there's also lairs for cliff races as well, so you might find a large number of cliff races in any one area of a lair, as they'll dynamically spawn in around it, and this will probably make traveling a bit more of a hassle than it already was before with these flying menaces, just, being everywhere with these lairs, and really, it can be quite a pain to clear these out. This week's new Meshes and Textures Mod of the Week is Stavsbox's Plesiad Keep by Stavrogan. And this is basically a replacer for the fort in Plesiad, replacing the smaller and less impressive main keep of Plesiad with a larger, more dominant structure of tall and imposing stone walls with rounded towers around the base. And really, this is a more defensive style design. There's more arrow slits for potentially holding back enemies, and the main entry has been removed to a more secure location. Outside of replacing the models for the keep though, this mod also adds in some new details to make Plesiad feel a little more unique, with a small armory and practice dummies in the courtyard, and a under construction tower along the walls, not to mention a few crates and other details to sort of liven up the place. And just looking at the keep from a different angle, you can see that the main entry has been relocated to the top of the walls off to the side here. And this is a fairly strategic position, because any invaders will have to climb the walls just to get inside, though it does make for a bit of a trek if you want to get inside yourself. And in any event, this is another really impressive model replacer by Stavrogan that makes the keep at Plesiad more imposing and certainly more impressive looking from a distance. It sort of dominates the Plesiad skyline. Next up we have our Modest Resource Mod of the Week, and this week we're taking a look at Kite's Rug Resource by KiteFlyer61. And I know rugs aren't exactly the most exciting thing in the world, but if you're a modder, rugs are absolutely essential to creating nice, cozy interiors, and the vanilla game doesn't really have a whole lot of rug options, and this resource provides a ton of new rugs for you to check out in a variety of styles, and I have to say they all have very crisp, high-resolution textures that kind of remind me of the rugs that you find in Oblivion. And overall, this rug package comes with two main different types of rugs, more rectangular rugs and more rounded rugs, and each style of these rugs comes in a large and small version, so you can use them as welcome mats or use them to finish large dining halls as you so desire. And there's obviously a lot of different settings these would look great in, though keep in mind the blinking in and out that you might be seeing here is caused by Morrowind unloading objects not in view for some reason, but it's a really good rug resource if you're in the market for that sort of thing. For our underrated mod of the week this week, we have Shallot Hideout by Istredify. And for more experienced Morrowind players, you may recall that there's a bandit hideout in the Sheogord coast region that's home to a number of criminal elements in a hidden away cave called Shallot. And what this mod does is, once you've cleared out the bandits and also, the vampire that they've struck a deal with for mutual protection, you can claim this cave as your own little hidden home away from home. And once all those unsavory characters have been dealt with, you can find Swordfine Hair here in Dagonfell and purchase a number of upgrades from him for different parts of Shallot Cave, transforming this once barren hole in the earth to a home worthy of someone of your character. Although you will need to buy each part separately, and options include an alchemy lab, training area, master bedroom, storage, and a smithy, and this will all set you back a few thousand gold per option. But once all the purchases have been made, you'll find that you now have a rather unique hidden lair where law enforcement officials will be unlikely to find you. And as you can see here, there's a small storage area off into the side of one of these caves with a smithy nearby, and each of the weapons on this wall here is actually a container for organized weapon storing. And here you can see the alchemy lab, which is a converted part of an old tomb attached to Charlotte Cave. It includes an alchemy station that allows you to perform alchemy without lugging equipment everywhere. And another cool feature here is a hidden passage that leads to a second entrance that you can use for your base, in case you need to make a quick escape if someone's coming to get you or something. And another part of this tomb has been converted into a display hall of sorts, where you can use the altars here for displaying items, and the mod also includes armor mannequins that you can use to display armor and weapons as you so desire. And while it's not a particularly large display hall, it does provide space for a rather sizable collection of goods, and there's also a training room in the caves with animated practice dummies that you can wail on with your weapons to increase your weapon skills as you so desire. And lastly, the main compound of this cavernous lair has been converted into a number of different finished rooms, including extra storage for holding items, a small dining-like space area that can also be used for displaying items outside the display hall, and again there's also a few chests in here for, again, storing even more items. And this last bit here is sort of a master bedroom, including a bed, desk, and some bookshelves and storage space, and all in all, this is a well-hidden home, ideal for characters who like to lay low and stay in the dark, like thieves or assassins. This week's Blast from the Past file of the week this week is Arena and the Rusty Swordsman by Ill-Tempered. And basically this is a sort of oldie but goodie that updates and changes the arena compound in Vivek, adding in a ton of extra detailing and also scheduled fights that you can watch, and there's also different fights at different times of the day, and it also comes packaged with a couple of other mods that add a ton of spectators to the arena stand, and a mod that allows you to place bets on fights, and I believe these mods were made by Adam and Indrik respectively. But anyway, as for other things added by this mod specifically, you'll now find a few new merchants in the stands that sell a variety of goods, and of course, when combined with the other plugins included in this download, you can really bring the arena to life, and naturally this is a great alternative to some of the other arena mods out there. But the real meat of this mod is actually a new bar that's been added to the arena compound called the Rusty Swordsman. And this is a really unique and beautifully decorated little bar with lots of character. You got people dancing, music players, people smoking long pipes with what's probably skooma, and a good number of merchants hanging about to sell you any number of wares. While there isn't really any new dialogue or anything like that, this is just a really cool place to come and hang out in between major fights in the arena, and it's also a great place to just catch a drink with some rather unique looking characters. And I just gotta say, this is an absolutely fascinating bar design. It's got a lot of atmosphere and a lot of unique decorations especially. You'll notice that it has a kind of a bit of a pirate theme with all those decorations towards the top of the roof there, and it's really just a cool place to hang out. Finally, for our bonus mod of the week this week, we have Nissus Waterfront by Crankorilla. And this isn't really a big mod or anything, this just adds a large outdoor dark area and covered platform to the Nissus Waterfront, and this is basically meant to be a sort of outdoor player home with some nice outdoor dining, some storage and display areas, and you'll notice a lot of Danae's containers resource being used here for visually organizing and storing items, and there's also a hammock that you can use as well, and in addition to the more visually organized storage, there's also a few barrels that you can store items in, and there is a rather lovely view of the surrounding West Gash region here as well. It's sort of a nice place to just come to relax out in the open, and there's also a couple of NPCs here who offer transport to various parts of the West Gash region, and they also have a number of goods for sale, with some gold to buy any items that you might have. And one of them even has 2,000 gold, which isn't too shabby for unloading items that you no longer need. Finally, I just wanted to show you guys a bit of an aerial view of the new Nissus Waterfront extension, which includes some nice detailing with rowboats, containers, storage, and a lot of roped off parts that just look nice with the rest of this platform here. And this is just a nice addition that you can use as a sort of temporary player home and convenience mod. Anyway, that pretty much wraps up all the mods I have for you guys this week. As always, there's download links for each of the mods that were shown in this video down below. And I'll see you all next time with another 13 mods for your viewing pleasure. And by the way, episode 46 is going to be dragon themed, so if there's any dragon mods that you know of that you'd really like to be shown on the show, do please just let me know in the comments below. And anyway, thanks for watching, and happy modding!